Is it better to have lots of stuff but an empty life, or to have a full life and less stuff? We're going to talk about that today from Proverbs chapter 12. Hey guys, and welcome back to God's Word Made Simple by Simple Servant Ministries. My name is Aaron Hawk, and if this is your first time visiting with us, I just want to say welcome and thank you for being here with us today. God's Word Made Simple is an online discipleship ministry dedicated to taking God's Word and making it simple. We want to help you understand God's Word, apply it to your life, and grow in your relationship with the Lord. And guys, if you appreciate this content, at some point make sure and hit that subscribe button, turn that bell notification to all so that you don't miss any future videos. So today we are covering Proverbs chapter 12 verses 8 through 12. And this section in particular is really focusing on kind of the big picture of the character of a person and whether there is value to the choices that they make. So in verse 8, we see a man will be praised according to his insight, but one of perverse mind will be despised. So that one I think is fairly obvious, right? If somebody is insightful, is wise, they're going to be praised. People generally ask questions and advice from people that they see as being wise. And someone who is not, or someone who is perverse in their mind, right? The fool, or the literal perverse, of course, perversion, right? People don't generally ask anything of that, and they're not exactly thought well of. But then verse 9 is the crux of this section that I want to talk about. Better is he who is lightly esteemed and has a servant. Now, we're not talking about American version of slavery. In the old times, in the Old Testament, slavery was very different. I'm not going to spend any time dealing with that. Think about this word servant just like you would think about like a waiter or a waitress or a butler in a home, right? A private servant, not a slave, okay? All right, so let's get into it. Better is he who is lightly esteemed and has a servant than he who honors himself and lacks bread. Now, that word servant literally just means one who serves, right? So the same thing as like a waiter or a waitress or a butler or a housemaid, right? So better is he who is lightly esteemed, someone who is not thought well of, right? I mean, it's kind of like the rich person that nobody likes, right? Better is he who is lightly esteemed and has a servant. So you have achieved more if you can afford to hire somebody to do stuff for you. So you're in a better state to have the ability to hire somebody. In other words, you have arrived financially enough to the point that you can hire people. That is better to be lightly esteemed and be in that condition than one who honors himself and lacks bread. So in other words, this is the idea of someone who has financial gain versus someone that does not. The one that has financial gain, it's better to not be thought as well of and be well off financially than to esteem yourself, be prideful, but have nothing, right? It's kind of like when you see... It's kind of like when you see people that do not have money at all. Their house is a mess, their clothes are a mess, but they have a really fancy car. Why? Because when they drive around town, everybody goes, wow, that person's made it, right? Well, what value is that? It's not your car because you can't afford it. You're not going to get to keep it, right? Long term, you're not going to have that thing. So what good does that do to ruin your life to have that status symbol versus the person who maybe people don't think as well of them, but they're in a financially solid place? Maybe that's the person that drives the Toyota Corolla that's a few years old, or, you know, even an Avalon, something like that, right? Or the pastor that drives a minivan, right? Maybe it's better to be that guy, but be in a better financial position, but people don't think you're quite as cool, than to be the other guy that everybody goes, wow, but it's all an empty shell. See, that's a status symbol. That's not what we're supposed to pursue. It's empty. It's nothing. There's nothing to fall back on, and it really leads to your ruin. And that, again, is what Solomon is trying to teach his child, his son. Then a righteous man has regard for the life of his animal. Now, again, this would have been an agrarian society, so animal didn't necessarily mean pet. It meant livestock, but the same would apply. A righteous man has regard for the life of his animal. In other words, this is the idea of stewardship. God has blessed you to the point of being able to have an animal, treat it properly. You don't mistreat animals. These are creatures that God has given us and put into our care, and we ought to take care of them. A righteous man has regard for the life of his animal, but even the compassion of the wicked is cruel. In other words, people who are wicked, who are just determined to live an evil life, even their version of good is still evil. And you see that all over the place with animal abuse. And I'm not getting into the whole PETA stuff, but we should take care of the creatures that God has given us. We have a stewardship and a responsibility to do so. And here it's flat out saying a righteous man will do that. Okay, or woman. But again, this is Solomon writing to his son or sons, depending on which section you're reading. Verse 11, he who tills his land will have plenty of bread. In other words, if you put in the hard work, you will reap the reward. Now, this is a general truth. We all know examples where that was not true. My business was one of those. I did all the right things, and on paper it was successful. I put in all the hard work, but ultimately it did not provide for our family in the way that we needed to, and that is because God had other plans for us, right? So there are general truths. It's not universal, but in general, you put in the hard work, you will reap the reward. Verse 12, the wicked man desires the booty of evil men. Now, you can snicker at that if your mind is in the wrong place, but that is the possessions, the evil men, it's the pirate's booty, right? Now you're making me laugh. So it's that treasure that has been gained by evil means, right? The wicked man desires the booty of evil men. In other words, they want something for nothing. And they also, within this evil mindset, well, that guy didn't do anything to earn that, so it's okay for me to take it from him, right? But the root of the righteous yields fruit. See, those who are operating within righteousness understand that something for nothing doesn't add up. Not only that, but you need to work hard to provide instead of trying to take advantage of other people. And we have a whole culture war going on in America about that fundamental concept right there. So guys, if you appreciate this content, make sure and hit that like button, hit subscribe, and turn that bell notification to all. Make sure you don't miss any future videos. If you want to support the channel, that's step one. If you really want to support the channel, make sure you share this video on social media or with someone that you think would benefit from it. And hey, if you want to help financially as well, there is a link down in the description. Guys, thank you very much, and God bless.